Hello and welcome to a new video. This one is a little bit different. I say that a lot lately, but that's just because I've been trying different things. Somewhat inspired by a random recommendation from YouTube to watch Mrs. making a commercial Steam game series. I recently decided to make a commercial Steam game. I say somewhat inspired because it's something I've been considering for a while now, but this kind of pushed me over the edge, I guess. So some of you may remember a while back I mentioned that I'm working on a thing, and I'm still working on that thing, but it's quite a big thing, and it's a big thing that's going to take a long time to finish, and I started to feel like it might be a bit of an ambitious thing for me to do for my first real project. Speaking of projects, just for a side note, a few of you have asked recently what happened to Death, my Ludum Dare entry that I made. He's still around, but instead of being his own game, he's been rolled into the big thing. So, the plan is to make a small game and release it so that I can legitimately call myself a game developer and get a little bit of experience with the whole game releasing process before I get that far in with the big thing that I need to actually do any of that there. Being a YouTube shill, my first thought after deciding to do this was about making some video content about it. The natural place to go from there would have been to pay homage to Mizzy's series and do the whole thing in a month like he did, but I quickly dropped that idea because there is no way I can dedicate enough time to this project to make a release-ready game in a month. I could make something, but not something that I'd be confident to put out. So I settled on a dev blog approach with a nice clickbaity title. Next up was the art, and I'm not an artist. With enough time, I can usually come up with some decent-looking pixel art, which is what I'm going to be doing with, or what I am doing with the big project that we talked about. But I wanted this to be a relatively small project, and I don't want to spend months and months doing the pixel art. Fortunately, I've got folders and folders of asset packs from various bundles that I bought and asset packs off the Unity Asset Store, and not to mention all the free assets that are available on stuff like opengameart.org and the Unity Asset Store. So I decided to use as much as possible to use existing assets rather than make my own. I want the game to look cohesive, so I'll probably have to modify some of the art and tweak stuff to make it all gel together, but for the most part, I'm not making my own art on this one. Music-wise, my partner in musical crime has been kind enough to take on the role of music maker for this project. For those of you who don't know, this is the guy who did the music on my 1-Bit Game Jam winning entry. And also my bandmate in Fantastic Mr. Fox. You feel like fire, and you burn me alive. Feel free to stream the heck out of that on Spotify. Finally, I want the game to feel polished. I don't doubt there's going to be negative feedback because, one, it's my first game, and two, it's the internet, but I don't want any of that negative feedback to be about bugs or the game feeling rushed or anything like that. And on that note, I will be looking for playtesters when the game hits a stage where it is playtestable, so let me know if you're interested. Patreons are going to get access to early builds of the game regardless. You can choose to ignore it if you wish. I'm not, don't feel obligated to play it if you're not interested, but if you are a Patreon, you will have that option. And I'm planning to give the top tier Patreon a free copy of the finished game when it's done, just as a little thank you. So, the game. I've had a kernel of an idea for a while now. I was planning to use the next time I entered a game jam, but the more I sat with it, the more it started to feel like it could be a real game rather than a game jam game. So, the idea started with some retro gaming pixel art trading card things that I saw somewhere. Can't remember where I saw them or who made them. All I remember about them is they were like trading cards, but they had 8-bit retro pixel art pictures of characters like Zelda and things like that. And it got me thinking, it would be cool if there was a card game where each card is like a piece of level from a retro game, and the players would deal out their cards and build a level across the playing surface with these cards, and then through some mechanism I hadn't thought that far ahead with, they would have to try and, quote, complete the level and work their way across it. And like I say, I hadn't got far enough into it to think about how the mechanism would work, like how you would kill players or succeed in the level or whatever. At the end of the day, I'm not really a card player. I don't really play physical games that much at all, so I quickly dropped any notions of creating a real-life card game because it's not my world. But I did get thinking about a video game alternative. So the concept is still being worked out, but the premise so far is this. The game is a side-scrolling platformer where the level is made up of, quote, playing cards. As you complete levels and find secrets and things like that, you collect cards for your collection, which can be used to fill in the gaps in some levels or swap out certain cards. This can allow you to progress where you couldn't before or get to parts of the level that you couldn't reach before. So, for example, if you had a card that has a high platform and a low platform, and there's something collectible on the high platform, and you can't get to that high platform, by swapping out the previous card with a card that has a ladder, that would allow you to get to the platform. But you have to collect a card with a ladder before you can do that. That's the basic gist of it. Some of these cards will have unique properties. For example, one card might have half gravity, which allows you to jump higher, or maybe one card is completely underwater. The cards will also be given difficulty ratings and sets. So you get points for each card that you clear in a level, and the amount of points depends on the difficulty rating of the card and is multiplied by if that card is part of the same set as the rest of the level. So in the videos that you're seeing in the background, it's mostly a sort of underground cave design. So if there's a gap in the level, or if you swap out a card for something that's not part of the cave set, it's less points than if you swap it for a card that is part of the cave set. The idea being that you can make a level easier by swapping out a card from another set with a lower difficulty rating, but you get fewer points because the difficulty rating's lower and it's from a different set. So I got to work trying to figure out the best way to display these cards. I really wanted them to look like actual physical trading cards, and I quickly found that any kind of layered setup wouldn't really work because each layer would have to be so close that they kept clipping through each other. And if I moved them far enough apart that they didn't clip, you could see the separate layers when you're playing the game, which kind of ruined the card effect. So I settled on moving the play area off to the side and using render textures to project the contents of each card onto just like a simple quad. That way I could give the cards some normal texture details and, height maps and things like that, and make the contents of the card look more natural because they're kind of overlaid with a physical texture, as though they were actually printed. The next step was to create some kind of player character, and I'd initially been using a free 2D character controller from the asset store, but I quickly decided that the amount of work needed to adapt the controller to fit my game would outweigh the amount of work involved in making my own game, so I threw the basic controller together just to get things moving. I then set about making a card system where I could easily change the details of the card. For now at least, each card has a title, a description, and a difficulty rating between 1 and 4, represented by some cute little skulls on the card. A difficulty rating of 1 basically means there's no difficulty. Like one of the cards that I've got at the minute is just a flat level with no obstacles, no bad guys, and no way you can die. Basically, it's a safe card. I then added a scoring system. Obviously, much of this part is subject to change, but for now I settled on having a score of 100 points for clearing a card, with the score being multiplied by the difficulty rating of the card. I haven't implemented any set multipliers yet because I haven't decided how swapping cards out is going to work. I think it'll be the case where there's only certain cards in a level that can be swapped, and set multipliers only apply on those cards rather than any card. And that basically is where I'm at. I estimate I've got about 6 hours in this game so far, spread over about a week and a half. It's not exactly fast going, and I'm going to have to take more time away from it at some point to make other videos on this channel, but I'm going to aim to give at least weekly videos from now until the game is actually ready to release, or at least is more or less finished. Obviously, if there's nothing to update, I'm not going to put a video out on it, but that's the hope. So that's the end of the video, and it's a little short one. All that's left to do now is to thank my wonderful patrons. You're all very appreciated, and of course, extra special thanks go to the Sugar Mummy / Daddy tier supporters, who are Dave Maldine, Reg Reed, Gabriel White, Aaron Clark, and Mr. Drunken Dragon. That's it for now. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.